What's good, guys? So in this video, we're going to be comparing Bubble with FlutterFlow. Now, I've been using both of these tools for some time now. I've been making videos about Bubble as well as FlutterFlow. And so I have a pretty good understanding of kind of the pros and cons that each of these tools have. And so in this video, I'm going to be telling you 5 pros for Bubble and 5 pros for FlutterFlow. And at the end of the video, I'm going to be giving you my personal opinion of which tool I like better and why. Now, before we get started, if you like NoCode, if you want to learn how to build any kind of software app, a SaaS tool, internal apps, or just kind of learn what it takes to build a piece of software without writing a single line of code, then you definitely want to subscribe to this channel, because on this channel, that is all we do all the time. And also, you want to smash the like button on this video as well, and definitely leave a comment below just letting me know what you think about this video, letting me know if you have any questions or concerns. Any kind of engagement from you guys really helps this channel out and helps to get this video to more people out there. So having said that, let's get started. First, let's talk about the pros for Bubble. The first pro for Bubble is, in my opinion, it's easier to get started. So what I mean by that is, let's say I open a new app here and I say test app here and I call it external. I say, what is the goal? Build a tool for myself, and, I pick blog and I create a new app. Bubble goes out and creates this template for me, and it's a simple web page. It's almost like developing, a web page. You just drag and drop. And what I really like about Bubble is that once you pick an object, you can decide, okay, do you want appearance to be a static text? You want it to be just random text here, or do you want to get dynamic data where you can get current user? It's very simple, It's very simplified, and all you're really doing, you have a web page, so everybody's familiar with a web page, and all you really need to do is just drag and drop. So you have, your buttons, you have your icons, you have an image, and this thing makes it super easy. You can have a dynamic image, you can drag and drop it here, you can choose an icon. Also, workflows are very simple. I can add a workflow. It just tells me what is happening. User logged in, logged out, pages loaded. These are going to be your workflows, the events that are going to be the most frequented kind of in your app. And so Bubble makes it really easy. And so in my opinion, when you are starting out, when I just started out with Bubble, I found it to be very intuitive. And so that's definitely a pro for Bubble. The next pro for Bubble is it has internal data storage. So what I mean by that is, you have an app and you have to store data somewhere, right? If you're going to have an app that has some kind of data that needs to be stored between restarts of the app, you got to store it internally. And so if you go into data here, you have your internal data here. So you can define, different data types. So you have a user, you can say customers here, you can say products, you can say, clients. And then for each of these data types, you can actually define the fields, right? You have these built-in fields, but you can go to products and you can say name, right? And you can say this is going to be text, or you can say, date, and you can make it date, right? It has all of these fields. Another thing that you can do is you can say type, and the type could be actually maybe, another field. It could be another data type that's linked back to these data types. So if we say, let's say categories, something like this here, and then I can say, well, I want to go into products and I want to say type, and then I can link it back to categories here, okay? So the fact that it has an internal data storage is a huge plus, because not a lot of app builders have an internal data storage, and this essentially allows you to kind of test out an app very quickly before needing to kind of work with external data storages that come with their own challenges. So this is a big plus for Bubble. The next plus for Bubble is that if you want to do APIs, you want to execute, you want to connect to a third-party service, you want to write data, you want to read data, you want to obtain data, and APIs are very important. They're actually built in with Bubble. And so if you go in here, you can just install this plugin called API Connector, And once you do that, you can just add APIs. And APIs are included in the free plan. And not a lot of no-code builders actually include APIs as part of a free plan. Typically, they're part of a premium plan. And this is awesome because now you have an API connector, so you can add, all of these APIs here. And you also have internal storage. That means you have a couple of ways of kind of building and testing the app without needing to kind of upgrade to a paid plan. That's a huge, huge plus. The next pro for Bubble is that it has an extensive plugin library. Okay, so if you go here to add plugins, you have a ton of plugins. Bubble has been around since 2012. And so it has had a lot of time and has had a big head start when it comes to developing plugins, developing all kinds of pieces of code that allow you to kind of build a very, very effective app. So yes, there are plugins that are more popular than others. There are plugins that do not have many users. But if you look at plugins, so for instance, if you go in here, you have Toolbox here. This has 300,000 apps using it. You have Multi-Select Dropdown, has 165,000 apps. So these plugins are very, very popular. And that essentially means that you're not going to have many issues using them, right? So if you scroll down, you have all of these air color picker, so you can just install it, click to install, and then you can go back to the design and you have this air color picker. You could just go in here and now you have an air color picker, right? You can set it to an initial color, maybe red. And then when you run the app, right, if you go in here, it's red. If you run the app, if you go to preview, you will be able to kind of pick the color by, actually choosing the type of color that you want. And once you pick it, it's going to know exactly kind of the hex code and all the code for the color. And that will allow you to kind of implement it inside your app. So here we have this air color picker. And this is going to be useful if you're developing an app that may need to have an input of a specific color from the user. So for instance, you're developing an app and you need to know the color of the UI, or maybe it's in the UI builder or something like that. And that makes it super easy. Here you can just pick a color right here. You can pick green. And inside the app, it's going to know exactly what color you pick. This is very, very helpful. You don't need to go out and code this yourself. And same thing goes for all the other plugin databases. For all the other plugins, you can say add plugins, and you have a ton of other plugins. So the fact that Bubble has been around for a relatively long time, when we are talking about the no-code kind of time frame when it comes to tools, has given it a head start in terms of kind of building out this community and building out a lot of plugins. And last but not least, when it comes to pros for Bubble, is the fact that it has a big, big community, okay? Bubble has been around since 2012. That's over 10 years, which is a lifetime when it comes to no-code tools. And that has allowed it to kind of have a head start in terms of building a community and in terms of having a support. So if you go into like Bubble forums, if you just Google for Bubble forums, you're going to have a lot of users. You're going to have very, very busy communities, right? So if you go in here, you have huge communities. You have a plugin. You have big, lots of people kind of replying, asking questions. It's a very, very alive community. And this will allow you to always feel that you can always reach out to help if you're stuck on something, if you're not sure how to do something. And also when it comes to monetizing your app, you can reach out to people and talk to them when it comes to kind of like, okay, how do I make money with the app? How do I make money with plugins? You can figure out what people are doing, what is the best strategy when it comes to actually making money, and lots of other things. And communities are huge, right? That means you're not, not one of the few people that are using this tool. There are, hundreds and thousands or even tens of thousands of other users that are using this tool as well. And that's going to be a big benefit when you are actually decide to kind of dedicate yourself and really invest in this tool, because nobody really wants to, invest their time, effort, and money into a tool that nobody else is using. And when it comes to Bubble, you're not going to be dealing with this problem at all. So now that we talked about the pros for Bubble, let's talk about the pros for FlutterFlow, okay? The first pro for FlutterFlow is that it's mobile first. And so what I mean by that is, let's say we have a test app here. I can just open it up here, and as you can see, it has a mobile interface, okay? You can preview it, you can change your canvas here, you can change it to an iPad, You can change it to an iPhone 11 Pro, depending on how you want to preview it, how you want to develop it, and also you can preview it for a web. But the fact is, when you start working with FlutterFlow, you start with a mobile interface. And so if you're building mobile apps, this is going to be very, very useful, because right away when you're starting to build an app, you're essentially building an app that's optimized for mobile from the get-go. The next pro for FlutterFlow is the fact that it supports Google Firebase. So if you go in here, connect, you have this Firebase setting. And you can go to collections, you can kind of define your collections like I've done here. I have my hotels, I have my reviews. You can go into settings and you can kind of configure it to connect to your Google Firebase account. So if you go in here, if you just Google for Google Firebase, you have Firebase. Firebase is Google's mobile platform that helps you quickly develop high quality apps and grow your business. So if you go in here and you go to get started, you can simply create a project here and you can call it something like Firebase test, and you can say continue. And now it says your new project is ready. You're going to hit continue. And you're going to be at your Firebase project overview. So if you click on this, if you go to build, you're going to see Firestore database. And this is a really awesome, high performance, easy to use database, because you can simply create a database. You can do it in test mode. You can just, enable it here. And here you have a database. So you can essentially create a bunch of collections. You can call it products. And then each collection is going to have a bunch of documents, and each document is going to have a bunch of fields. So here we have the first document. I can just say name. I can hit save. And now I essentially created a collection of products, of documents with each fields. And I can do it recursively. So, a product can have a bunch of fields. It can also have another collection. We can just call it reviews. And I can do that. I can auto-generate this, name of the review, etc., etc. And then once I created it here, I can easily link it back to my app, like in a video that I talked about previously. You can find that video on my channel that explains exactly what you need to do. And this is a big, big benefit, because Firestore database is high performance, very, very easy to use, super flexible, and you can design and develop and model any kind of database that you need for any kind of project that you need. So that is a huge, huge pro. Now, the next big pro for FlutterFlow is the fact that you can customize your app using custom functions, custom widgets, and custom actions. And now this, in my opinion, is one of kind of the biggest benefits of FlutterFlow, because you can create any kind of widget that you want very, very easily. You can customize it pretty much as you want. There's really no limit to how far you can customize it. So for instance, I have here an app where I built out a video app widget. So if we hit this edit here, you're going to see I have a little bit of code here, and it's nothing complicated. It's actually very, very simple. And this allows me to essentially have a widget that displays a video. Okay, in this example, now I can go back here and I can essentially pick a page here. I can go back here, and if I come in here, I have a video app widget. So I can pick this here, and then I can kind of configure it. I can say the width is 300, the height is 200. And then when I run this app, it's going to compile it, and it's going to, it's going to display this widget. And this widget is also going to take some, input. It's going to have some events. It's basically like a little app inside the bigger app. And this is very, very powerful. You can do so much with it. And in FlutterFlow, it's very, very easy to do. Another thing that you can do is you also have custom actions. So meaning that if you're building an app, you can have a regular widget there, but that widget can respond to a custom action. So not like a regular built-in action, it could be a custom action. And depending on what you wanted to do, you can do that using an unlimitless library that comes with FlutterFlow. So you can pretty much do all kinds of actions, whether redirect to a user there, authenticate the user. You can do so many things, and that is very, very powerful. Now, speaking of custom widgets and custom actions, FlutterFlow has a limitless library of various packages and various tools that you can incorporate into your app. So if you go to pub.dev, and let's say you want to create a video player, you can just search for a video player. And chances are you're going to find a package that probably already does what you wanted to do. So for instance, I searched for a video player, And here I have a ton of results. I have results for 332 packages. And here we have a video player. I have videos player. And you can kind of look at this area here to see how many likes they have. So this has 1.6 thousand likes, 130 pop points, 100% popularity. And so you can click here and you can kind of learn more about what this video player does. And in fact, this is the same package that I used in order to build my own custom widget that essentially displays a specific video inside the app. And this is very, very powerful. If you want to redirect the user somewhere, you want to redirect, you can just search for launcher URL. You can just Google, you can just search for something like this, and you're going to have a URL launcher, right? This has 4,000 likes, 100% popularity. And this is a Flutter plugin for launching a URL. It supports web, phone, SMS, and email schemes. And this essentially allows you to do, you can build an app, for instance. Let's say I have an app and I want to, build, I have a button here, so I can just put a button. And when somebody clicks on this button, I don't want it to, navigate to a certain page. I don't want it to use a built-in action. I want to essentially click on here. I have this action flow. I can add an action. And I can essentially create a custom action. I can just say, well, I want this action. I want it to be a custom action, okay? And I can say, well, I have a custom action here. And I can say custom action. I can create a new custom action that uses something like this, a URL launcher, or pretty much any other package. And this specific package here is just going to redirect to a certain URL. And so this is a very, very simple example, but really I can make it do just about anything, okay? This is a Flutter favorite. I can find another package that in app launcher, a maps launcher, I can make it launch an app, I can make it launch email. I can do it pretty much anything that I want. And the fact that I can customize it is very, very powerful and a huge, huge benefit for FlutterFlow. Now, the next benefit for FlutterFlow, and this is probably a little bit more subjective, is that I actually find FlutterFlow a lot more intuitive than many of these other tools. So I find it more intuitive than even Bubble. And so what I mean by that is, for instance, let's say I have a text, okay? I just drag a text here and I have a text. And when I go to this area here, I can make this widget. This is actually a widget. I can make it behave any way that I want. So for instance, I can set it from a variable. I can have an action associated with it. I can come in here and I can have a query for it. A lot of other tools, they kind of have the same functionality, but in my view, FlutterFlow does it a lot more intuitively. Like as another example, let's say I want to drag like a view, right? So like a list view, right? I have a list view here. I can just drag this one here. And now I can come in here and I can decide, okay, how do I want it to look? This looks good. But I have an action. Okay, so what do I want an action? I can say add an action. I want it on tap. And what do I want it to do? I have API call, authentication. I can have a custom action. And custom actions, as I just talked about, allows you to have an unlimited ways of kind of creating any kind of events, right? But I can also go to this database. And now I can have a query. I can do a query collection. I can do a document from a reference, API call, Algolia search. So for instance, I have a list that has a query. I can query it from like a Firebase, and then inside, right, I can go to this widget tree here, and I can have inside. I can click this, and I can say, well, I'm gonna have a text, right? I'm gonna pick text, and now inside the list view, I'm gonna have text, and then each of these texts, I can set it from a variable that I got it in terms of the previous variable. And so in this text here, I can say, well, I can set it from a variable that was assigned when I got data from a list. So let's say that list is a list of names or numbers or something. And each of these texts has access to the previous element, list view in this case, and it's assigned a variable. So I can simply go to text. I can say, well, this is local state. This could be a custom function. It could be just about anything. And in my view, it's just more intuitive how FlutterFlow is designed. This is just my opinion as somebody who comes from a tech background, from like a software engineering background. For me, FlutterFlow is a lot more intuitive, having used it for various projects. And it's just easier to kind of build things with it. And so now that I talked about the 5 pros of Bubble and the 5 pros of FlutterFlow, it's kind of up to you to decide which tool is more to your liking, kind of which tool is something that you're gonna vibe better with. In my view, if you're gonna be doing mobile development, I would definitely pick FlutterFlow. Another reason to pick FlutterFlow is that if you're somebody like me, you find this tool more intuitive. You like the fact that it has kind of this design, kind of this UI, and the way it behaves, and the fact that you have access to Firestore and APIs and all that. You kind of like the look and feel of it. I would pick FlutterFlow. If you're just starting out and you don't have any experience with anything, I think Bubble is going to be a good start, because with Bubble, it's more minded to kind of real beginners, because with Bubble, you're essentially building an app by building kind of a web page. Okay, with FlutterFlow, it's a little bit more kind of technical, but with Bubble, if you're just if you're used to kind of what you see is what you get, kind of web designers, tools, software, apps where you're building web pages, then Bubble is going to be right up your alley. Whereas if you're somebody who has a little bit of experience, at least some experience, you're a beginner, you're an intermediate, you understand that you know what an MVC framework is. You know that you need to get data somewhere. You need to do something with that data. You have a logic, you have events. You may have custom functions, things like that. And you want a more robust kind of database in the form of Google's Firebase and things like that. Then FlutterFlow is going to be a tool that you want to use. My recommendation is to build an app in each of these tools and then decide which tool is more kind of towards the way you're thinking. That is exactly the path that I took. And it was only after this experience that I realized which tool is more suitable for me. And that is all that I wanted to talk about today. Let me know in the comments below, which tool do you prefer? Also, if you can, let me know why you prefer that specific tool. Also, let me know in the comments if you have any concerns or questions. And if you want me to compare a bunch of other tools, if there's another tool you're thinking about using or have been using and you want me to compare it with one of these tools here or another tool, definitely let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you guys in a future video.